We're at Merriam City Hall in Merriam, Kansas, about 12 minutes till 7 for the single hall or city council meeting.
How you doing this evening?
Outstanding.
Good.
We're ready for it.
Ready for the fun?
Yeah.
We're ready.
Watch those freedoms fly away.
We're ready.
It's just trash, right? What's it really matter?
She gets 5, I get 5.
Do you two agree on this stuff, or are you two on different sides of it?
We agree. We agree.
Me,
Thank goodness.
my husband and I don't always agree. I encourage him to still come and talk, though.
He took off. He's gonna leave it to me.
Oh my!
No.
I saw Engel running. Oh, there he is. I saw Engel running away, but I guess he came back.
Everybody's terrified.
You're the only one that had to receive it. You got it?
Yeah, we're not just kidding.
Yeah.
He could have gone back into the admin offices if he has like a paper.
Oh, is there a sign-in sheet?
There is.
Oh, I can.
Sure. The blue one.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. You used the word in front of it. I'll find out.
Is this your one? I'm not touching it. All right, where do you want me to start? Sorry, what am I saying again?
Oh, yeah, go for it. Thank you for coming.
You got me today? Sorry.
There's a lot of reasons why we do this job. There's lots of reasons to do this job. There's lots of reasons to do this job.
Hey guys, it's Caitlin, Merriam, back in Penny. It's public service recommendation. And we do this job for a lot of reasons. We wanted to see where our city council sits. Let's go.
That's pretty good. I know, I always, I listen, I actually slow down.
I'm
They did say that police needs to add visual. Just say that, so, if you talk to them. I'll go tell them.
You got a crime to report to them? You got a crime to report to them?
No.
Good.
I will.
They don't always listen to those.
Oh, was it?
It's not your decision.
Okay, all right, I'll figure that out. The one thing, whatever, really forward to their control. Is it gonna be?
Evening, Caitlin.
So excited.
Oh, you're wearing your dress.
So are you?
Because of the contingent on the.
Thanks. To be comfy.
Yeah.
Since the plat was never filed, it just didn't matter.
You for all the questions? I don't think I'm gonna get that lucky, but take me with you.
Budget time?
Oh, no, just CFP, because I'm gonna budget. Yeah. So we go for it, but I have a pinch of the presentation tonight, and like 30 of them 20 slides. So I'm just the sweet spot at the end, you know? Yeah, yes, we can afford this. Please take it. Did I hear you were on vacation this week? Oh. Oh, is that where Lauren is too for her birthday? Oh, that's cool. I'm glad they did something fun. Oh. I think her birthday is. I forgot his name, but I didn't think it was a national. So cool. Maybe I should start running marathons. So like you go to cool places. I'm like, yeah, I have to go for this thing. Yes, ma'am. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing. We'll send it to all of them. That's great. Or we'll just send a link or
I
whatever.
mean, I already did the binder, so I don't know, I was gonna bring that up.
Just, are you wanting just the CIP book?
Not all of them, I haven't talked to all of them.
But is that what they're talking, is that all that's in the binder?
The CIP and the budget.
Yeah, perfect, okay. So right now, they only have the CIP. So I can send them a link to that. I agree. Well, I'll just find out how many copies I have to make then, yeah, that'd be great.
So, but I don't know.
Mayors. That would be great.
I may even bring it up.
That would be great, just like a show of hands, because if I need to make, because I mean, budget will be a ton of ours.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Okay. I'll set up mine.
I shouldn't even need mine if the city's works properly. You guys here to celebrate the loss of our freedoms?
Or you want to? Yeah, well, no longer.
Yeah. Thank you. Welcome, neighbor.
Thank you.
Here to celebrate the loss of our freedoms. One by one.
For that $10,000 that Steve Howell got last week.
Well, from us, they like to use the word free a lot, giving away free this, free that. No, it's not free, it's tax funded. It's tax funded.
Exactly. Why didn't Steve Howell go for get the private sector to donate to that?
Private sector doesn't want to because it's not worth the money. If it was, people would have done it.
Oh, yeah.
The butterflies, not the bugs.
Yeah, every time I see Steve Howe, I can't not remember
Last time he's tried a case.
John Albers is what I remember. The kid that was killed in Overland Park. There's a teenager who apparently, like, somebody called in that he was feeling suicidal and he needed help.
Oh, yeah.
And an officer came and sure helped him out.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yes, I
13 times to the back.
Oh, I don't have anything to
And
say.
how ruled it unjustified shooting. Unarmed kids that didn't even know they were there. The kid was backing out of the garage and didn't stop, and the cop said stop. Whether he heard it or not, who knows? But like, come on, like, it's not like a back up, park and swerve, right? Just stand beside.
Exactly.
It's common sense. But
Why is paying him all that money? You know, overseer department do anything?
yeah.
She's following you. Run.
You know, 2 weeks ago, I appreciate we could understand you. Good. The other guys that were up there giving presentations, they're talking like this and that, and not into the microphone, and only caught about a third of what they were saying.
I'm a loud talker, so
Well, you know,
that helps, right?
it does, I mean, if
It
you
got me in trouble in like elementary school and middle school though. I was always the one that they were like,
my
talks
voice
too
carries
much.
too.
Yeah.
I will
Talks
probably
quiet.
speak on the single bullet thing. If no one else does, I'll be quiet.
Oh,
Yeah, you're like a
sense.
inside
They made
voice,
their
for sure.
I spoke last meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard
And I'm
you.
all pitchy.
I applauded you.
Thank you.
I guess, I don't know. Are you guys here for
Try
a
to
single
mute
hauler?
myself a little bit.
Talk
And
trash.
I need a little bit of momentum to bring up
See what's going on.
the
Oh, yeah.
evaluation.
No, that's
Last
great.
Friday, they had a
We
work
love
session, which is an open meeting.
Some people I've talked to.
It took place half upstairs in this building and half on the tour bus that drove around the city.
I mean, because
Well,
we
at
are.
least
There was
listen, you know, and make,
15 empty seats in
have
that
an
bus, and I sat
opinion
in
is
one.
good.
And our city admin came on that bus and told me, get up. You can't be animated. Tune into Zoom if you want to see. And I did, and the audio was like
I mean, for-
unintelligible as Zoom often
I
is.
think most
You can
people.
imagine Zoom on a bus. It's like, not a smart idea. So, yeah, but that happened in the presence.
But I like
of
not having to
Officer
think
Brokaw.
about it. Charger.
He was witnessed it happened. I asked him, could you please just document what you heard?
I think it's easier. I don't
You
have
have
to
to take
think
an
about
aside,
it.
just document what you heard said to me.
Yeah, those are the two I've heard.
You could talk to him. Like, and the police refer you to seek
And why
human
not
justice. That's not a
3
very
instead
safe
of a
feeling, you
5-year
know?
contract?
Crikey. I've actually reported open meeting stuff to Hal
And
before.
I'm Megan, by
Because
the
he's the
way.
county DA.
Nice to meet
The county
you.
DA is supposed to be able to
Emily and
handle that.
Wayne.
Emily and Wayne,
And
nice
he
to
didn't
meet
have
you.
it before. So I just gonna handle it again. Now I'm going directly to the Attorney General, Kobach, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to call tonight's meeting to order. If you will please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pate,
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta. Here. Councilmember Cosmeyer. Councilmember Hans. Here. Councilmember Caldwell. Councilmember Leahy.
Here.
Councilmember Ryder. Here. Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge. Here.
Madam Clerk, next item up this evening is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note, individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. In accordance with governing rules and procedures, the city reserves the right to refuse public comments that are personal, pertinent, or slanderous. I did have a sign up this evening But it has two people on it for trash, and we will be talking about trash on the agenda, so I won't call you up yet for that. But is there anybody else that has anything that they would like to come up to our podium and speak to the council about this evening that isn't on the agenda? See, no one rushing to the podium? Okay, well, we'll close out the public items at this point and moving right on to the consent agenda. Okay, all items listed under this heading are considered to be routine by the city council, may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so request, in which case that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. We do have 4 items this evening. Does anybody want anything removed from the consent agenda? See, nobody asking for anything to be removed. I would entertain a motion at this point. Mr. Silvers, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council approve consent agenda items number 1 through 4. In one of these months, I'll get through without some.
You're doing fine, sir. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, Ms. Hunt.
Mr. Mayor, second.
You have a motion and second.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hans.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is the mayor's report. And you guys know how I love proclamations. Well, you are in for a treat this evening because I have a bunch of them. And I'll start off with the first one, okay? Whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American species whose multi-generational migration and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imagination of millions of Americans. And whereas we, the mayors and heads of local and tribal government, are deeply concerned about the decline of the monarch butterfly population due to the deterioration and loss of summer breeding habitat in the U.S. and the winter habitat in California and the south central Mexico. And whereas cities, counties, and communities play a critical role in helping save the monarch butterfly by providing habitats at public parks and community gardens and hosting events such as community workshops and plant giveaways to educate residents about the cultural significance of monarchs. And whereas we recognize the importance of creating monarch and pollinator habitats in parks and other green spaces for our community to enjoy and encourage our residents to plant milkweed in their gardens. Now therefore I am bound paid by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby take the pledge and commit to helping restore the monarch habitat and encourage our residents to do the same so these magnificent butterflies will once again flourish across the continent. Proclaimed on this 20th day of April 2025, I'll pay Merriam. And I don't think we're giving that to anyone tonight. Next, okay. Whereas Bike Month was established as a national celebration in 1956 to showcase the many benefits of bicycling and encourage more people to try bicycling. And whereas bicycling offers an opportunity to invest in more equitable access to key resources for communities and households without a car. And whereas riding a bike makes streets safer, brings people together, and keeps the air clean. And whereas investing in connected and protected bike lanes and related facilities can be beneficial for local businesses. And whereas the city of Merriam has accepted a bike and pedestrian improvement plan to incorporate more bike lanes or share roads in future projects. And whereas May is also the time of year for people to celebrate Bike to Work Week from May 12th to May 18th, as well as Bike to Work Day on May 16th. And therefore I am bound paid by the virtue of the authority invested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, to hereby proclaim May 2025 as National Bike Month. Proclaim this 20th day of May, April 2025, I'll be the mayor. Got several council people who do that too, but do a lot of biking. Next, whereas the National League of Cities was founded in 1924 in Lawrence, Kansas as the American Municipal Association by state municipal leagues seeking more coordination and national representation as cities, towns, and villages expanded rapidly. And whereas the nonpartisan National League of Cities is the oldest and largest organization representing municipal governments throughout the United States, representing more than 19,000 cities, towns, and villages across the country. And whereas, as the voice of cities, towns, and villages in Washington, D.C., the National League of Cities has successfully championed federal legislative solutions that support municipalities and has worked closely with Congress and the executive branch to to educate policymakers on the realities of local implementation. And whereas local government are the bedrock of American democracy, providing 336 million residents with the most accountable, responsive, inclusive, ethical, and transparent government in the world. And whereas Merriam is a proud member of the National League of Cities and has benefited from the organization's research, technical expertise, federal advocacy, and opportunities to learn from other local governments. And whereas Merriam was the first incorporated in 1950 and is proudly served today by 9 elected officials and a municipal workforce of 90 dedicated public servants. Now therefore, I, Bob Hay, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month. Proclaimed on the 20th day of April, 2025, Bob Hay, Mayor. Get close. Whereas Public Service Recognition Week was first observed in 1985 and was celebrated the first week of May. And whereas Public Service Recognition Week honors all people who serve our nation at federal, state, county, local, and tribal government employees. And whereas public servants use this time to educate others about the work they do and why they chose public service careers to make life better for all. And whereas through the education, public servants connect with the community, improve perceptions, and help inspire new generations to go into public service. And whereas I urge all citizens to learn about what government workers do to positively affect our community, and I personally thank our local public servants for working diligently on our behalf. Now therefore, I, Bob Hay, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 4th through the 10th, 2025 as Public Service Recognition Week. Proclaim this 28th day of April, 2025. I don't think we're gonna get there. And we can do the end of this, we'll clap for all of those populations, but I think we have several things to go through. Okay, whereas, and we do have somebody that represent this too, and then I'll call you in just a second, sir. Whereas, May is nationally recognized as a month-long celebration of the rich heritage and remarkable contributions of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders to the American story. And whereas the vast diversity of languages, religions, and cultural traditions of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders continue to strengthen the fabric of our community. And whereas we celebrate the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities whose grit, ingenuity, and perseverance have pushed America forward. And whereas diversity is America's greatest strength, and the city of Merriam is guided by the principles of inclusivity and is committed to helping improve the lives of all individuals in the diverse community we serve. And whereas the city of Merriam recognizes the challenges faced by Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders because of the fear-based hate, but will continue working to celebrate the achievements that define our history and our future. Now therefore, I, Bob Hay, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I call upon our community to learn more about the history of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and to observe this month with the appropriate programs and activities. Proclaimed on this 28th day of May, April 2025, Bob Hay, Mayor. And I understand we have Colin Doe, who is the Kansas City Asian American Chamber of Commerce President. Sir, if you could come forward to our podium, and I hope I said your name right, but if you'd give your name for the record, and I'll give you a few moments to speak, and then I'm going to come down and present this to you, this population.
That's correct. It's my honor to receive this proclamation, and on behalf of the all communities in Kansas City, Asian American, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islander, I sincerely thank the mayor, the council, and the staff for this recognition of our heritage. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let's give her a round. Thank you. Thank you, sir. approved all my proclamations, but it's not concluded my report. I always like to say a few things that's kind of gone on the last 2 weeks, and well, there was a lot. I'll try to read this quickly. Okay, I took a tour of the Adult Detention Center as part of me being on the Johnson County Criminal Advisory Committee. I and a council member attended the Flags for Freedom Committee meeting. It will be a great event, with flags being displayed between June 28th and July 5th. Great patriotic event is planned for July 4th with a band of food trucks at the Farmers Market. I attended the Northeast Chamber of Commerce leadership meeting at the OPFD training center that covered what police and firefighters do. I had no idea.
Yeah, right.
I attended the Northeast Johnson County Mayor's Luncheon Meeting, which was hosted by Johnson County Commissioner Becky Fast. It's always good to find out what others were doing in their communities. I attended a transit Zoom meeting that covered plans for changes in the way public transit is going to occur throughout the county. I and several council members assisted staff and numerous volunteers to clean up the Streamway Parkway. I was hoping to find one of those 75th anniversary hearts. All I found was trash, but okay. Maybe they want me to get out there and clean some more. But thanks to everyone for participating in that. I know we had several down there. I and another council member attended the Walker School discussion that was held at the Merriam Plaza Library. Tony Adams, Mary Webb, were present, gave their perspective from actually living through that time of segregation in their schools and the impact that their parents had on bringing this injustice to a whole. I and council members met to discuss tonight's agenda. I and a council member attended the ribbon cutting for Aristocrat Motors building, and later council had the opportunity to tour that building. I and several council members attended the volunteer appreciation dinner hosted by our Parks and Rec Department. Thanks go out to the staff there for another successful event. I can't thank all the volunteers for everything they do for the city. They provide an invaluable service, and I appreciate that. And I think all we have to do is give them dinner once a year. It's amazing. I and council members staff took a tour of our city and looked at all the proposed capital improvement projects and viewed the projects that are currently underway. I and council members got to witness and help Merriam Park students planting trees on school property in honor of Arbor Day. Proclamation was read to the students and they recited a poem. Good job by Public Works and the fire department for watering that tree. And I and several council members got to attend the tree planting at Crestview for Arbor Day as well too. And same thing. That's all I have. The mayor's report is anything I missed. The council will let me include. All right. Thank you all for bearing with me on all those items. Okay, it looks like the first item up on council item is to approve a funding agreement. Looks like Mr. Engel coming to the podium. I'll let you explain this next item, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of a funding agreement with Slater Investors LLC related to a request for incentives at the northwest corner of Shawnee Mission Parkway in Indiana. As council is aware, Drake Development, who is the owner of Merriam Grand Station, developer of Merriam Grand Station Deal Kmart, has submitted plans for the north side of Shawnee Mission Parkway to include on the west block a residential tower with the Chipotle remaining, and on the east block a 12,500 square foot grocery store, as well as 4,000 square foot restaurant, potentially 2 restaurants. There won't be a drive-through, as you can see in the rendering. In conversations and current negotiations with Drake, it's clear that incentives likely will be needed for this project to proceed. So we are investigating the use of TIF and possibly, quite likely, CID. To do that, we're going to need outside legal and professional help to help the city consider the viability of those incentives or for a public-private partnership. Per city council policy, we need to enter into a funding agreement with anyone that requests incentives. Funding agreement also comes with a retainer, which is a $30,000 check, which we are in receipt of, that helps pay for all of those consultants that we'll need to vet the viability of that project. The funding agreement basically spells out all of the uses, how we would go about requesting more if we need more, how we would go about refunding any of that money if it is not used. The agreement does not obligate the city to provide incentives. It simply just protects the taxpayers from having to pay for those consultants based upon the request. We do have Scott Miller with Drake Development in the crowd this evening. If you have any questions specifically for him, again, this doesn't obligate us to anything other than to proceed with the investigation of the public-private partnership for this, what we think is pretty exciting development. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Engel? I see no questions. I would entertain a motion at this point if we want to move forward with this. Ms. Hands.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a funding agreement between the city and Slater Investors LLC related to development at the northwest corner of Antioch and Shawnee Parkway.
Motion, do I have a second? Commissioner Shadrick.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion to second.
Councilmember Hans,
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder. Aye. Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yadrich,
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like the next item up is consider approval of an ordinance establishing an organized collection service. There we go, we'll take her in this guard to the podium.
Hello, good evening. For those in the audience that don't know who I am, I'm Caitlin Gard, the Assistant City Administrator, who has been the staff contact for this project. Thank you, Julie. Traditionally, for a second reading of an ordinance, we don't normally get into this level of detail, but given the topic, I thought it was very important, especially for our audience or anybody that's going to be new listening in, to go over all the details and where we've been to date. I will say we do have a representative from GFL here to answer questions that I can't answer, and I'm sure he'd be happy to address you as well. I just want to go back to the very beginning on why we started this discussion initially. While we have been talking about it for a number of years, we did add this question to our 2024 community survey, in which 65% of residents either strongly agreed or agreed that we should implement this type of initiative. So therefore, the City Council added it to their goals and initiatives in 2024 and then again in 2025 to investigate this process, and we've been through a very lengthy process, as I'll go through here in just a minute. We did establish purpose and goals. We always want to give our highest level of service to our residents for their satisfaction, and we do see that within our community survey, as I mentioned. We believe that this would have having one single contract and having the city be the oversight of that would make it more predictable, make service more predictable. And we also understand that it's going to decrease cost of the services to our residents. In addition to that, the last three bullets are related to traffic on streets, truck traffic, noise pollution, degradation of streets, and then safety. We believe that all of the goals on this screen are going to be accomplished, and so we're pretty proud of this process so far. We've talked about this a number of times in public meetings, particularly. Our first was when we gave the presentation to the council back in June of 2024, where we presented the results to that citizen satisfaction survey. And then ultimately in July, we got the direction to proceed with this process. This is a statutory process outlined by the state of Kansas. It is very lengthy and very burdensome, but we followed all the steps, and this is our final step tonight before we implement the program, if you all choose to do so. We've held a number of public hearings. We even had public participation in the form of a work group to establish the RFP. Meeting with the haulers participated by statute in that process as well. You all have reviewed the results to those RFPs. They've been presented on our website, and then we ultimately had the first reading of this ordinance on the April 14th City Council meeting. We did get 5 bids from 4 companies. You've seen this slide before. Again, it's posted on our website. Our low bid and the company that we've chosen to move forward negotiations with is GFL. It is the MARC bid. It's the same bid that a number of our neighboring communities use, Fairway, Roland Park, and Westwood, thank you. I'll use the contract through the Mid-America Regional Council, who did the cooperative purchasing bid for their services. GFL has essentially given us that same bid, which is the top row that you see here. As a part of that bid, as I mentioned, GFL Environmental is the provider. It's weekly trash recycling and yard waste services on a 5-year agreement. GFL's rate is $19.50. There is an administrative fee of $3.50. That fee comes to the city, not the hauler. We will be hiring one full-time person. Half of that person will do any administrative work that's going to be associated with this service. There is a annual increase on the price that's capped at 3% of what the Consumer Price Index says for trash and trash collection services. GFL will provide 65 and 95 gallon bins, yard waste pickup of 10 bags or bundles weekly, year round. There are gonna be 2 amnesty weeks, so you can go over 10 bags, one in the spring, one in the fall. In addition to that, the contract includes 3 bulky item pickups per month. That will obviously be communicated to the residents when we know more information about that. If the residents would like additional trash carts, those are available at $10 per month, in addition to the contract price. Trash overage stickers, so if you have more trash than your bins, there are overage stickers that are available for purchase. We'll have them available at city facilities, but they're also available elsewhere, and we'll make sure that residents know where to purchase those. White goods, so anything pretty much that has Freon in it, can be collected at an additional fee. For those that need to qualify, GFL will do a garage to curb service for the bins. Take the bins from the garage in front of the garage, they won't go in your house, but take from the garage door to the curb and back. And this proposed contract has a November 1 start date of 2026. We've had a significant amount of public communication around this process. It has been included in every single one of our highlights magazines since we started discussing this back in April of last year. We do have a dedicated webpage that includes a frequently asked questions, a very lengthy frequently asked questions item. We've included this on all of our social media, and then also last month we did a direct mailer to our residents, linking them to all of these things and also providing all of the details that I just provided you. We don't know 100% of the answers to questions, but we know quite a bit. We still need to do extensive public communication. We need to determine the remaining details of the contract. We don't know what day of the week your trash is gonna be picked up. That's gonna be more discussion with the hauler. We're gonna have to come up with routes and stuff like that. We need to create the process for the garage to curb service. That's gonna be a process through the city, through that administrative position that we're gonna be hiring. We will work with the provider for bin distribution. This is gonna be a really big one. Obviously, we'll do a lot of public communication around that. Obviously notifying the other haulers of termination timeline and what that's gonna look like, working with getting those bins picked up and the GFL bins distributed. We will continue to evaluate our in-house large item pickup and true debris pickup programs. Right now, we don't have any intention of changing those. The City of Merriam will still provide those programs, but because this contract service does provide for a bulky item pickup and also amnesty weeks of yard waste pickup, it might change the amount of service that we need to do in-house as a city. We do have to determine if HOAs are going to participate in this program or not, and then obviously hire that position. That is what I have information for you all. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Do you want to have any questions from Ms. Carr? Go ahead, Ms. Black.
Can you clarify the HOA participation? They have the right to opt out?
They do, yes. So we have 4 HOAs that are on consolidated contracts right now. I've been in communication with all of them on whether they are interested in staying on their own consolidated contract or opting into the city's contract. Per the bid, it's allowable for the HOAs to opt out if they wish to do so.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
Would this be an appropriate time to ask the hauler representative a question?
Of course, go ahead. This is Tom Kaufman with GFL Environmental.
I was gonna have you give your name and address for the record, Mr. Kaufman.
I'm Tom Kaufman. I live in Mission, Kansas. I'm the government contracts manager for GFL Environmental. And I'm here to answer whatever questions you might have.
Hi, Mr. Kaufman. Thank you for being here today. It's nice to put a face to the company. So the number one question I've been receiving from my neighbors and from people who have come to this meeting is GFL at the price of $19.95 going to be able to serve the community the way that a lot of them feel like they have been receiving service from their haulers? They've mentioned to me that they don't really care about the price, they really like the service they receive. Can you guarantee our residents that they will get A1 service for the price of $19.95 a month?
I'm very confident in our service levels and our service delivery model. And I'd encourage anybody who wants to call any of our other, especially Kansas side, Johnson County communities that are roughly the same size. And we've been having nothing but great luck for them for years. And, you know, we work with them, we're responsive. Yeah, I'm really confident about that.
Great, thank you very much.
Go, Mr. Lane.
I have one other, Caitlin mentioned that you serve the MARC contract. What other services, or what other cities do you serve on the Missouri side? So I believe there's a couple, correct?
Okay, well, let's see, we've got, 3 cities under the MARC contract, and we also have the city of Mission. And then, on the Missouri side, what do we got? We got Flat Woods, we got Riverside, we have Belton, we have Peculiar, we have Harrisonville, we have Smithville, it's all over the place, 4 or 5 counties.
No, that's great. I just want to, I mean, I think we've heard several times about all the other places that you service as well, but I just want to make sure that people understand it's not just, 20,000 households in the Johnson County segment.
No, actually, the company I work for is the 3rd or 4th largest hauler in North America, so we've got a lot of assets and expertise.
Any other questions for Mr. Kaufman? Okay, so, okay, thank you, Mr. Kaufman, thank you. Which I got in this card.
Just one more question, because I ask it every time. The county and city ordinance requires that all households have trash service, correct?
Correct.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Carr? I do have, before we go any further on this, I have 2 individuals that have signed up to talk about trash. And that would be Julie Bailey is the first person. You come forward and give your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Julie Bailey, and I live at 6015 Slater, just down the street. Did you say phone number?
No, don't.
Oh, okay, good. I've lived in Merriam for 21 years, and I really, really love Merriam. And we plan to live here as long as we can. I have a couple questions about, while you were talking, some questions occurred to me. Why is it that HOA associations can opt out, whereas the rest of us can't?
And our Discord will be collecting those questions and sure answer everything at the end. So please state all your questions.
Oh, okay.
Or have her address that at the end.
And if this passes tonight, we have an 18-month window before we can actually implement this, correct? Well, no, wait. And when will the administrative coordinator be hired? And will there be other people hired? And will all this be covered under the amount originally stated to us? Or will there be additional charges if we have to hire additional people? And I had some questions
it's a matter
about the survey.
a person's freedom.
I know she just said that,
to do business with who he wants to. And
the survey question was, Merriam should implement a citywide contract to provide trash recycling. I recollect the survey saying, should they conduct a study about implementing it? Not should we implement it or not, but I think the question was, should we study? That is what sticks in my mind, and I might be wrong, but there's a big difference between majority wanting to study it as opposed to those who absolutely want it. The other thing, on the community survey, this about Merriam should implement a citywide contract to provide the trash recycling services. The majority of those who voted said it should be given the lowest priority, 43%, and that's on your website. So the majority of people thought it should be given the lowest priority over all the other things that Merriam's doing. I just like to make that point. My other questions are on the savings to the city. And I know my husband's asked this. I'm sorry I haven't been in the April 14th meeting. But it says that this, Merriam will save a lot of money from having less trash trucks on the street. That it damages the street. Is there an actual study that was done to show how much damage is done by how many trash trucks? And do you have a study showing cities that have one carrier, like Roland Park or wherever, compared to a city of the same size that have multiple carriers? How much more does the city spend for the damages? Just wonder, because nobody seems to be able to give us that answer. And, you know, if they keep pushing that it's gonna save us money, but I'm not really sure how. I'd like to see written proof of how much it would save. Same thing with emissions, vehicle emissions, noise pollution. Has there been traffic studies? Do they say how much of a difference? You know, I live down there right across from Hobby Lobby, and we get semi-trucks going down in front of our house all the time. So, you know, I don't know about the trash trucks, and I really only see one carrier pretty much in our part of town. I don't know how much of the city uses Casey disposal, or if the majority, or if it's.
Your time is up.
Oh,
Mr.
no.
Merriam.
Okay,
I'm sorry, we only had 5 minutes though.
okay,
Maybe you could slip those rest of those questions to Mr. Bailey.
oh, okay. Thank you.
You're gonna call him up next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, William Bailey, please come forward, sir.
Start that clock until I get the money. I'm gonna talk a lot of trash.
Only 5 minutes with us, sir.
Yeah, I get 5 minutes. Mayor, council members, and staff, thank you for the opportunity to address this very important matter for our city with you. Singular trash service for our residents is a very important matter and should not be taken lightly. Making this decision requires the utmost attention. After reading all the materials involved regarding this matter, additional information and questions are needed for our residents. Transparency is a very important item regarding this matter. Back on April the 14th, I went back on the minutes and read them. It says, what about the bad reviews from BBB? It's one of our residents. Free markets and government stepping in with regulation and taxes. That was another one. Take away choices to hire trash services. That was another one. Will a reduced truck traffic pay for the additional personnel? I have no idea. That was another question. Monthly billing versus yearly tax bill. Much easier to pay monthly than coming up with a large amount at the end of the year, particularly for elderly people. They're on a fixed income, and to have, I won't say a large, semi-large amount coming in at the end is tough to pick it up at the end of the year. We have 5 trash haulers, is that correct? So we issue 5 permits, is that correct, Brian? 5 permits for 5 truck haulers.
I would ask her that you
excuse
all
me.
your questions,
Correct.
ask the questions as they're answering them to you.
Oh, okay. So it's my understanding we have 5 truck haulers and we have 5 permits that are issued. I don't know what those permits are cost, but, and who are the haulers? I think we know. What percentage of hauling does each company perform? Does KC perform a certain amount along with WM? How do we determine that cost ratio to having a single source? What happens if the trash company fails to pick up trash? Trucks break down or the company goes belly up, Chapter 11. Who's gonna pick up that trash? Is the 2011 Organized Collection Service Act right fit for Merriam to be a pilot program? with no historical trending to prove it if it is the best solution for our residents. How is the tax different from other cities who use only one hauler? Is paying this tax through our personal property tax, why would we get a lower monthly price? Does it have any relationship? By adding the cost of the tax service to our personal property tax, will this have any individual mortgage payment effect when the payment escrow is reviewed due to lack of funds, which raises the mortgage? Okay, so these are some of the questions that the council needs to answer. They need to have transparency with the residents. They need to get this information out to the residents. And I am fully supporting that this matter needs to be tabled for further input from residents once additional clarifications have been provided. Thank you for your time. And I ended in less than 5 minutes. And that is a major compliment for me.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak about trash? Okay, so please come forward, sir, give your name and address for the record.
Greetings, Council, Mr. Mayor. This is Billy Cron, 6633 West Street. Caitlin Gard did a great job discounting the dissenting voices of your neighbors 2 weeks ago, and I'm sure she's ready to do the same as soon as I sit down. I'd repeat what I said last week, but I doubt it will do much good to hear the same things twice, so I'll save you. I want to thank Ms. Bailey tonight for pointing out that the citizens' lowest priority, according to the city's own survey, was this single hauler. And I'm also going to point out something I noticed on the slide earlier today that's been drummed up time and time again by staff. The percentages that add up to like, what, 66% of residents, took a photo here, said, the question was, Merriam should implement a citywide contract to provide trash or recycling services. It doesn't say a mandatory contract. It doesn't say that Merriam should eliminate the free market or to take away our choices. It said that there should be a contract. And if that existed in the way that people could opt in, you know what? I'd probably opt into it if it was the choice. But when you try to force it on people, that's not right. It takes away people's self-ownership. It takes away consent. Consent matters. People's rights matter. Do with that what you will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak to this matter this evening? Okay, I see nobody coming forward at this time. Ms. Gordon, would you like to address those questions that were asked by our audience?
I would be happy to. Okay. The first question was, why are HOAs allowed to opt out when individual residents cannot? HOAs already went through an individual bidding process, just like the city did. The city is going to a single hauler contract to save the residents money because of economies of scale. The more residents that participate in a single contract,
companies in the city.
theoretically, the lower the prices are going to be. That's exactly what HOAs are doing, obviously on a smaller scale because they don't have as many residents as the whole city does, but they have mass quantities of residents going to a single hauler for that HOA. Does that answer that question? The next question was 18-month window until we start. That's correct. That is a statutory timeline. That timeline cannot start until you all adopt this ordinance this evening. So starting tomorrow, we start the 18-month timeline. Therefore, the contract would start November 1 of 2026. The next question was, when will staff be hired? We, assuming you all approve this tonight, are almost ready to go with at least posting a position for an administrative position. We would assume this person would probably be hired by summer sometime. It takes quite a few months to onboard, or hire, onboard, recruit, etc. So summer-ish, sometime this year. Will there be more in addition to this person? We don't anticipate that happening. Will there be additional charges other than what's been quoted? No additional charges other than that annual inflation that I already mentioned. Did that answer all the questions about staff?
Sorry, so we've discussed in previous meetings about clawbacks and stuff. I'm wondering how that is how that would relate to the person that we potentially hire if we do decide that they're not doing a great job and we want to cancel?
Yep, the person that we're going to be hiring is essentially the contact between the city and the residents, and then GFL, the contractor. Not only with Tom, who's here with us today, but also their GFL is going to have an on-site supervisor who literally is going to be in the field while the trucks are picking up. So essentially this staff person will have all of the information that supervisor will have. They'll be in contact. As far as clawbacks and whatnot, we discussed, and actually it was a very big priority of the work group, to have customer service be in-house with the city of Merriam. So instead of calling GFL or calling a national number, it was very important to the work group to have a number at City Hall to call, somebody in Merriam to be able to answer those questions and handle the issues. So that would be who the staff person would be. Obviously they would take note of any complaints or issues. Hopefully they could be handled immediately. If not, you're right, there are clawback provisions and penalties written within the contract. Okay. The next question was specifically related to the survey. Thank you, Billy, for reading it back, but I did copy this directly from our survey. So this was the specific question that was asked. It did not say investigate. It specifically said Merriam should implement a citywide contract to provide trash recycling services. Copied straight from our survey that is available on our city's website. In addition to that, it was also noted that this was the lowest priority on the survey. I will say we didn't list every single initiative that the city of Merriam is doing on that survey. We listed top, I believe, 5. So of those top 5, yes, I suppose out of 5, not out of all, but out of the 5 initiatives that were listed, I suppose the residents did say we should focus on other things as well. But as you can see here, 65% of Merriam residents either strongly agreed or agreed that Merriam should implement a citywide contract to provide trash and recycling
Should have said
services.
mandatory.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that all of those things we're also working on that were on the survey.
Yes,
I have
thank
it
you.
pulled up right now. I just
Yeah.
wanted to look at it.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely, we certainly are.
Okay.
The next question was about truck traffic and savings on streets. We did our research on this one. We did not specifically do a traffic study or a street study specific to Merriam. However, there is national data. This is our city's webpage for trash and recycling, specifically for the single hauler. I am now scrolling through the FAQ. You can see every single question, I believe that I've ever gotten at least, is available on this, including information regarding dollar amounts for street maintenance. So what's the return on investment in terms of street maintenance by going to one trash hauler? We believe that cutting down from 5 haulers to 1 will reduce wear and tear on the residential streets, helping them last about 2 years longer. That means we can delay costly street work, saving the city an estimated 9%, or if you look at our mill and overlay program, that would be about $127,000 to $163,000 each year on our road maintenance. Those are based on current paving costs. There are a lot of other factors that factor into that, but our rough math is about $130,000, $140,000 a year in savings.
Mr. Summers.
I have a quick question having to do with truck traffic. One of our guests tonight had mentioned that near, I believe, Shawnee Mission Parkway. Now, this might be a question for Public Works, but I assume that Shawnee Mission Parkways, the thickness of that street is greater than a neighborhood street, so it can take more wear and tear from semis. And
that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we also don't maintain Shawnee Mission Parkway because it's keyed out, so, yeah.
Right, I was just trying to like disseminate between, say, a highway, which Shawnee Mission Parkway is, and one of our neighborhood streets.
In addition to that, we didn't do specific traffic studies in Merriam, but the reduction of trucks by 5-fold will obviously provide less noise and less emissions. There will simply be less truck traffic. Any more questions about trucks? Okay.
We're good.
The next question was regard monthly billing versus biannual billing. The first thing I want to say is the city of Merriam does not provide utilities, as everyone knows. We do not have a billing system available here at City Hall. That would be very burdensome to set up. Cities that have billing are usually providing utilities like water or wastewater or electric, things like that. We simply don't have those services, and so we don't have a way to directly bill residents. The way that every other community that does single hauler, at least here in Johnson County, puts it on the annual property tax bill. It's actually biannual, it comes twice a year. Property tax bill, which, yes, if you do have a mortgage, is paid through your mortgage. I guess the technical answer to if that will increase your mortgage payment is technically yes. However, you won't be paying a separate trash bill. Currently, you're paying your mortgage and you're paying your trash hauler. That trash hauler bill will be eliminated. Yes, it will be added to your property tax bill, but at a lower rate. You won't be paying as much. So while technically, yes, your mortgage will increase, you are now eliminating a bill that you're currently paying and probably paying less on your mortgage as well for this line item.
Point of clarification, technically it's your escrow payment?
I'm sorry, technically it is your escrow payment on your mortgage. Okay. What happens if the company goes under or stops picking up or stops servicing? That question is also, so is the mortgage question. That question is also on our frequently asked questions. We're not just gonna have trash everywhere. It's gonna be very situational if this were to even happen. I can't imagine that it would, but if it did, you all would have to quickly decide what we're going to do next. Obviously, there's pretty much two different options. We could go back to an individual hauler service like we are today, or we could sign a new contract with a different hauler. Multiple companies bid, so multiple companies are interested in this contract. If for whatever reason GFL could not continue their contract immediately, we would probably go to one of the other bidders and say, here's the situation that we're in, we are wondering if you can hop on our contract. I would assume in the interim, we might need Public Works to help out, depending on how long that takes, but we're not just gonna let trash be everywhere. So I would assume very quickly you all would make a decision and we would move forward with a different hauler. And again, if we absolutely had to, Public Works would certainly step in. Not ideal, but we're not having trash everywhere. Does that answer that question?
I think so.
Okay. Those are the questions that I wrote down.
I had one additional one that we discussed previously. Knowing that we have 18 months before we can officially implement, if we go forward to officially implement single hauler for the city, have there been any discussions about GFL coming and servicing residents in the interim? So people want to get onto GFL sooner, so it's not all roll out, 4,000 carts in November of next year.
Yeah, so our contract, like I've mentioned, doesn't start till November 1st of next year. We assume there are going to be situations, we're gonna work through individually with residents who, for whatever reason, their hauler, their contract ends before November 1st, or their hauler leaves town, whatever is gonna end up happening. We'll certainly be working with GFL. They're very open to having that conversation.
I'd like to go back to the question that Amy asked, because I'm not sure if it was fully answered. I think one of your questions was, what would happen to the person that is hired to be the in-between our residents and the trash hauler, if for some reason that we choose to not go forward with this, even if we're at, I think we can basically stop even after we sign the contract.
We can, that would probably incur some costs. Tonight is the night that we all need to make a decision. Once the contract is signed tonight, GFL is gonna move forward as if we're implementing the contract, which would incur costs. Then if we do back out, I would assume that we would have to incur those costs would be passed along to us.
But the question, I believe, is what happens to the person that's hired here in City Hall? Would they be able to retain their job and take on other responsibilities, or would they have to be let go?
We're essentially tying that hiring of that person to your decision tonight. However, it is a only half of that person is going to be for trash. We do have other needs in this organization, particularly administratively, and so there are other duties, there are other half of their job, obviously are still needed.
Thank you.
Any other questions from Ms. Gard? I see no questions. Do you have anything for us? Anything else? I think you've answered all the questions you had.
I believe that your next step is to consider the second reading of the ordinance.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Gard. Okay, well, I would entertain a motion. Ms. Shveta.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve an ordinance establishing the organized collection service plan.
We have a motion, we have a second. Chandra.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like the next item of this evening is the 2026 budget. We have Director Worth coming forward for this? No, we have, did I miss something?
Yep. Nope, I'm just gonna do the kickoff, because this is our first budget conversation.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So I was just doing the kickoff, this is our first 2026 fiscal year, budget work session, or budget discussion, budget presentation. So I always do the kickoff. Those of you, which is everyone, has been here before when I do this. I get up and just basically want to tell everyone that it is, I still think it's fantastic that the first thing that we do in Merriam is address our CIP budget. That is very, very unique. Usually CIP is the last thing that cities deal with. It's what's left over. CIP director comes in, the public works director comes in and says, here are the things that we're gonna do, or we're proposing to do next year. And usually the answer is, why is it those? It's because that's all the money that's left. In the absence of raising taxes or cutting other services. The fact that Merriam invests in CIP is an acknowledgement, I think, to the public, an acknowledgement that one of the most, if not the most important thing that we do is maintain our streets and our infrastructure and take care of our city. And so the fact that we do CIP first, we say what needs to be done next year, let's plug that into the budget, and then we build the rest of the budget around that, is something that I think is fantastic. I think it's special, and I think it's something that gets often overlooked by our residents, because it is something that, and you can tell by driving our streets. Drive our streets, you know when you leave our community, and not just when there's snow on the ground in our neighboring communities and not on our streets. And it's because the councils, this council, councils of the past have been committed to making sure that we make money available for our CIP. So I would just like to point that out every year, because it is a very, very special situation that we are in. And I'm very, very fortunate, because if there's one thing that gets people worked up more than anything,
It was a done deal a year ago.
Infrastructure, and that is not something that we
We weren't
generally
organized.
hear complaints about in this community. It's because of the priority that the councils continue to put on CIP. So that being said, I want to thank you for that and bring up Celia, and then she's going to turn it over to Megan after that, just to talk about the finances. But let's kick off the CIP budget discussion.
Mr. Ingram, where to come?
Getting to it. Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the same presentation that we gave to you last Friday, so I'm going to move quickly, but I'd be happy to answer any questions as we go, or at the end as well. So our first area to talk about is our major projects. We've got 5 listed here, and I do have additional slides. So the first one, I will talk to you about a couple of the ones that I don't have major slides for. So our Merriam Drive, Johnson Drive to 55th is our 2029 CARS funded project. which means we get CARS funding from the county. The scope of that project is based on a downtown corridor plan we did. And so it's basically a mill and overlay, curb and gutter, sidewalk, preparing the bricks between the sidewalk and the curb. We also have a lot of amenities, such as benches, landscaping and trees, lighting, special lighting in the downtown area, bollards so that we can shut down Merriam Drive for events, moving the farmers market entrance to the north so we can use the existing one for food trucks, etc. So a lot of exciting things that make our downtown more amenity for our residents and an attraction. Merriam Drive could move over. It could be reconfigured depending on our Upper Turkey Creek project. We don't know that yet, so that's something to keep in mind. And then depending on what happens with Upper Turkey Creek and the schedule, those projects could move. So the other project that I don't have a slide for is our Merriam Drive, Shawnee Mission Parkway to Johnson Drive, and that is your typical standard mill and overlay, concrete curb and gutter, sidewalk, stormwater, etc. So Upper Turkey Creek, the Corps has submitted 35% plans for us to review. Those are based on flood walls and levees. That was presented, and we're also looking at some other alternatives to present to you. And then I believe that you will be presented with those options later on this year, probably this summer, maybe even to October, where we make a decision whether to go with the Corps project or whether to do an alternate plan. The Corps is currently evaluating whether Johnson Drive Bridge and the Merriam Drive Bridge need to be relocated or reconstructed, I should say. So that's one thing that we still don't know yet. Merriam Drive, 55th to 50th, that's a 2025 design with construction in 2027. We do have a federal grant for this project, as well as CARS funding. Again, this was based on a Planning Sustainable Places grant. Our scope of work was determined for all of Merriam Drive, Merriam Lane with Overland Park. So it's a mill and overlay, a new 10-foot shared use path on the west side of the street, trail connections, sidewalks, curb and gutter, street lights, traffic signal improvements at 55th, and stormwater improvements. And as I've noted, the pavement width, in certain areas it's 4 lanes, in certain areas it's 3 lanes, so we're going to reduce it to 3 lanes based on the study. As I mentioned last week, when you drive this project, everybody knows this project is going on because we've got a lot of traffic control going on here. So right now, Capital Electric, who is the subcontractor for Evergy, has finished installing conduit on the south side of Shawnee Mission Parkway. Verizon will be coming in next week or the week after, so you may not see any cones go down. They may just, or it could be a little bit different, but they're going to start work on the south side of Shawnee Mission Parkway. Meanwhile, Evergy or Capital Electric is going to start on Antioch south of Shawnee Mission Parkway. So you'll see construction in that area. And then we're still working on determining how the configuration for undergrounding will be on the north side when we develop the library property. Medium projects, the only project I don't have a slide for is Johnson Drive, Mackey to East City Limits. That's a 2028 CARS project, and that's your standard mill and overlay, concrete curb and gutter and sidewalk, pavement markings, and potentially some stormwater improvements. This project is currently being bid, and bids will be open next Thursday. This is replacing our lining stormwater pipes and replacing some failing stormwater, a mill and overlay, sidewalk, curb and gutter, pavement markings. This is located on 61st Street east of Antioch, Hardy from 61st to Johnson Drive, and then streets off of Hardy, 59th Terrace, 60th and 60th Terrace to Overland Park city limits. Working with the contractor, Water One needs to replace some failing water line where they've had a lot of water main breaks on 61st Street east of Antioch. I'm working with them. They would like to get in the end of this week and start, and they're aware of the school traffic and our concern for that, so they would work during school hours and then take the traffic control down at night, and then once school's out, they would probably shut down a block at a time There will be through traffic allowed, but that's their plan for this project. 49th Street, this has been bid, and there's a lot of utilities relocating now in advance of the project. We've got gas, Evergy, Water One, AT&T, and Google. So a lot going on. We're anticipating the contractor coming in June 2nd. This is a mill and overlay, all new sidewalks and curb, also a new sidewalk on the south side of 49th Street, which isn't already there. New curb and gutter, bicycle lane on the south side of 49th Street, east of Knox, and Sharrows in all other directions, and pavement markings. Carter Avenue will be our 2026 CARS project, so we're designing it right now with construction in 2026. This will be a mill and overlay. We're slightly reducing the pavement so we can fit in a new sidewalk on the east side. The sidewalk will cross over at 65th Street, I believe, across the railroad tracks, and then go on the west side of Carter to the park, and then connect to that trail there so that pedestrians can walk on the sidewalk, get to the park, and then go to Turkey Creek Trail. We'll have some stormwater improvements and pavement markings, new curb and gutter, and ADA ramps. West Vernon will have construction in 2027 with design beginning now. This will be a mill and overlay, new curb and gutter, and ADA ramps. We did a stormwater study back in 2021, I believe, and looked at 4 different options for stormwater. So we will be installing new stormwater infrastructure and a new water quality BMP. We are budgeting for sidewalks. I know that about 5 years ago when we met with the residents, there was a lot of residents that didn't want the sidewalks. So we're gonna go ahead and send out a survey when we begin the project and just ask the residents their opinions on sidewalks, whether we want to have islands, etc. So we're beginning design now so that we can really engage with the neighborhood on that project. That's the summary for our medium projects. If anyone has any questions, or I'll move on to our minor projects.
Any questions? Okay, over.
I kind of moved ahead anticipating no questions. So again, I don't have slides for every single project, so I'll talk about the ones I don't, and then we'll go into more detail on the ones that I do. So the Park and Rec Master Plan, we're gonna have a master plan in 2026. We delayed that due to the Upper Turkey Creek project, waiting to see what happens there and how the trails interact. Then we'll have implementation in the outer years. Public transit is based on Johnson County's transit study. Once they determine transit routes and bus stops, we have funding in there for benches and certain amenities associated with the transit improvements. We're still waiting to hear back from them. 71st Street reconstruction, that's just east of Schweitzer. Right now it's a narrow lane road with a little bit of asphalt on it that serves about 4 houses. We're slating construction for that in 2029. Right now we do have new pavement, curb and gutter, street lights. It'll be a narrower section, but we did talk the other day about, you know, maybe we don't build it to that standard, but we have plenty of time to talk about that. Right now the cost is in there for that standard. Also reconstructing a little portion of the trail just east of the end of the pavement where it goes down the hill, so it's not as steep. Thank you.
Dangerous.
Merriam Drive and Antioch Road roundabout. That was a joint project with the Overland Park where originally they looked at a peanut at that location, but due to the grades and the configuration of the road, they came up with a design, the engineers came up with a design for a roundabout. In order to enter at a 90-degree angle, that would mean that we would need to realign Merriam Drive. And we looked at an option about realigning Merriam Drive that would go onto the existing church property. We have met with the church. They're aware of our options. They're not interested in redeveloping, but that's just something that we're gonna keep in mind if they do decide in the future. Right now, we're keeping it in the 5-year CIP. And we've also applied for some federal funds. So depending on federal funding, property owner interest, or Overland Park ready to move forward, we could move that project up. Underground utilities on Knox Street is a project that's already completed, and we're just waiting for an invoice from Evergy. That was an overhead electric line that came down during a storm, and Public Works couldn't get out easily to plow the streets. So they undergrounded that utility line, so we'll have more reliability in future storms. 75th Street Bridge, that's currently being administered by Overland Park. This was based on a bridge study that we inspect bridges every 2 years, and they identified these repairs that were needed. Overland Park selected Pyramid Team for design build. We are waiting to hear results, and hopefully we'll hear them soon. They're gonna look at cost and schedule for keeping the project open and keeping the road closed. So depending on those costs, we'll bring that back to council, and Merriam and Overland Park will make that joint decision, and we'll move forward on that project. This is our fire station apron. As you can see in the picture, the pavement joints are really deteriorated, so this would be replacing the deteriorated concrete and putting in some great inlets for future drainage. This project is under design now with construction in 2026, based on a study done by Clark Enerson. We're looking at first floor interior improvements, including the lobby waiting area. That would be used for those that come to court, that they can sit in the side and wait, or the attorneys can discuss in that area. Carpet or some kind of floor improvement to make it quieter, so that when court is in session, that city workers at the counter can hear easier. Signage, as you can see in the picture, that directs residents and business owners to their specific counter, desk modifications, etc. Downtown revitalization, this is to purchase properties for Upper Turkey Creek, or properties for redevelopment when they become available, such as some of the properties we've purchased up by Antioch Drive off of Merriam Drive, and then to implement the recommendations from the various planning studies that we've completed. And this shows that we are planning over the 5-year period to invest over $35.6 million in the downtown area. So the citizens, we've sent out a number of surveys, and there's a high interest in making the downtown, really an attraction and an amenity. It already is, but even improving that more. And so these are all the projects that we're going to invest in that area. And of course, the timing of that depends on the Turkey Creek project. This project is ongoing. We were looking at the Shawnee Mission Parkway corridor and any kind of improvements that we can make, as well as an interchange at Shawnee Mission Parkway and I-35. H&2B is our consultant, and they looked at 6 different interchange concepts. They've narrowed it down to 2 based on a number of weighted factors like traffic, safety, operational capacity, pedestrian access, etc. They're looking at a DDI or a partial cloverleaf is what they're going to look into, and then they'll come up with a final solution and a cost estimate and some concept drawings. Now, we will likely not do this project ourselves. We're really looking at federal funding for that, so we've been working closely with KDOT. And so we believe it's a good investment to go ahead and invest in the design, so that we're setting ourselves up for success to apply for future federal funding. This is a new project. The yellow lines are our stormwater system. Those are eligible for SMAC funding, so we've applied for 2026 funding. This would be replacing undersized stormwater pipes and replacing failing stormwater pipes. The asphalt and the curb and sidewalk are in good condition, so we would focus on the stormwater improvements here. This is a new project. This is a joint project between the city of Merriam and Shawnee, and Shawnee and Merriam submitted a federal grant and received 80% funding. I think it was a total of $700,000 or $800,000 between both cities. So right now we don't have the exact location, but one location that we're looking at in the slide, this is Sunflower Apartments, and to the north is the Merriam Park Elementary School. So trying to connect Merriam and Shawnee with a trail between the 2 cities. So you could get to the downtown Shawnee, or you could use existing, once we do this connection, you could use existing sidewalks and a trail to get to Turkey Creek and Campbell Park. So we will have public meetings. We've met with The property management company, we're still waiting to hear from Sunflower's owners to see if they're interested. Depending on their interest, you know, Shawnee will also do some public meetings that will determine the layout and the location of this trail. So that is our minor project summary. Now I'm going to talk quickly about our annual maintenance programs. So these are projects that we do every year. Our small drainage, we will use this project to repair sinkholes or pipe or inspect our pipe. We use the funding this year to do our gate and basket repair on Quail Creek. Our sidewalk maintenance repairs sidewalks every year outside of our normal standard mill and overlay and cars projects we do. Our pedestrian and bicycle mobility program, that would be funds we use to repair trails if necessary or install pavement markings for bicycles and sharrows. And then we have a public art 5-year program. The Public Art Committee has selected a project for this year. It's in the Merriam Community Center parking garage or parking structure. And so that's an ongoing project. This project, we received a carbon reduction program grant last year, and we were able to install 860 LED retrofit kits. We replaced our high pressure sodium bulbs with LEDs, which saves about 60% energy funding and is more sustainable. It used to be that Public Works would install the electric for the streetlights, but there are some areas where we have direct bury line instead of within conduit, and sometimes after it rains or certain weather, that we tend to have outages. So the project this year includes replacing our electric and putting it within conduit on Goodman, north of Johnson Drive, because we've had a lot of outages, as Councilmember Shavetta knows. We used to be able to do this work ourselves, but we haven't been able to rent directional bowl rigs for 3 or 4 years, so we've been subbing out that work. This is our traffic signal program. We normally repair or improve our traffic signals with projects, but in certain areas we don't have a project and we have aging components that we need to replace. One is a pole at Town Center that has been hit, and we need to replace that as well as some of the other equipment components that I've listed. Flashing yellow arrow, we'd like to do one every year. As I mentioned before, we targeted Antioch north, south, but we're kind of waiting to see what improvements are needed at that intersection based on the library development. So we will do a flashing yellow arrow, hopefully in that location, if not in another location that we've identified. Our mill and overlay program, we're halfway completed with our 2025 already. The contractor's going to come back and complete some of 2 remaining streets right now. Water One is repairing water main in that area. So they'll come back in June and we'll have that project completed for the year. Our 2026 mill and overlay is in the Quail Creek neighborhood. 2027 is in the West Vernon area, so that those funds are included in that project. 2028 would be Slater Street just east of the library. 2029 would be our downtown streets, assuming that, depending on our Turkey Creek schedule. And then 2030, we've identified those streets that are west of Merriam Drive, south of Johnson Drive. And that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions about projects?
Any questions for Director Company? Go ahead, Mr. Lane.
I just have one about those streetlights. What's the timeline to get all of the streetlights converted to LED?
I think it's over a 5-year period. We could accelerate, but we kind of like, if we replace them all at once, and then we're gonna have to replace them all at once
No, that's
again.
fine. I was just curious, so in 2030, when we start to revisit that 5-year plan, a lot of that will roll off and it'll mostly be maintenance on an as-needed basis, right?
Yes, and then eventually we'll have to put in funding to replace again.
Any questions for Company?
So this is your second time to do this, right? Does it feel like, since we plan out 5 years, that you end up prioritizing, moving things around very much, or does the 5-year plan serve you well?
So far, the 5-year plan has served us well. We do move some projects up depending on developments or, council interest or residential interest. So this year, we have 2 new projects, but basically, they're all the same projects, just different timelines.
It's like it,
Yeah,
it feels like it to me, I just wondered what your perception.
you have it all memorized, right?
Yeah, I do not, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else for us?
No, Finance Director Megan Worth will be presenting on the financial highlights.
Good evening, everyone. So everything Celia said sounds amazing, but the big question is, can we afford it? I'm here to say yes, which is great. So you're going to see throughout my piece of this presentation that we have different funding sources, which I believe everyone's familiar with. So these are essentially our 5 buckets where all the money comes from. And we'll get into these a little bit more in a second. So if you noticed, at the bottom of every one of Celia's project pages, it referenced how much that project was going to cost over the years. And then it also stated essentially what bucket of money each portion of that project would come from. So some projects only have one funding source, others have a couple, but those are all broken out on the specific project pages. It's also going to be broken out like that in our CIP book, which everyone can look at. So what this fun piece of paper shows is essentially the community, all of the totals. So you have revenues at the top, expenditures at the bottom, but it just totals up all of our revenue sources and then all of our expenditures. They typically fluctuate a little bit because of the primary funding source being the general fund sales tax transfer that we do. So we can take half of the 1% sales tax. Typically what we have done here is always just budget to do that full half, but we are allowed to do up to that. So if at some point we need to prioritize the operating budget or your priorities change, we can always do that. But the assumption for this is just to do the full up to half amount because we have a lot of projects and we're also very financially stable on the operating side. So we don't need that difference just yet, but we can change that at any point. So just so you know, it is capped at the full half amount as far as projections go. Anywhere you see where it says revenues less than expenditures towards the bottom, that essentially just means that we are going to be dipping into the fund balance for that year. But as you will see, with our beginning fund balance, second to bottom line, and then the ending fund balance line, we have a very healthy fund balance year. So any year that we maybe overspend our revenues, we have a very strong safety net there. I think $30 million is nothing to snuff at, and it's definitely higher than industry standards. So, but the great thing is if we had a catastrophe or if you had a road collapse, heaven forbid, we would be able to fund it out of here. So that, I'm happy to answer any questions about this page, but we'll get into funding sources a little bit more. I know this is a lot of information on this page. Okay. So some people are visual learners. This is just a quick graph showing if you were to approve the CIP as presented, where all of our fund balances would stand. This goes back to the page before this, shows the exact same information. Okay, so now this is broken out by funding sources, and again, you can find this in your CIP book. But again, it's just the bottom portions of every single one of Celia's project pages, all put into one neat place. So this specific funding source is going to be our general non-bonded funds, which again is typically that half of the 1% sales tax. So this shows you all the projects and then how much we anticipate needing to spend each year from this one bucket of money. Any questions on general? The next two funds are going to be your grants and other external revenues. Typically, any funds we receive that are in this bucket go towards a specific project. That's something that they applied for that project. So these typically cannot be reallocated or messed with, but if there's any concern on that, we could definitely look at it. So again, same thing, it just shows all the projects. The next bucket of money that we have is our special street and highway funding source. this is going to be that 0.25% of the special sales tax. And so typically what we're seeing, so for 2024, the amount that came in was 309,000 and a little bit of change. And so that has been consistent over the years. So what we do is we transfer that full amount so that we can use it. It is specifically allocated for only streets and highways. So we just do a pure transfer to these projects. This is what Celia has identified for that specific 300,000. At some point, we may have a little bit of a fund balance built up just for that special tax, but at this point we do not. We use it as we get it. So if at some point that changes, though, you could potentially see an increase one year. Any questions on those two funding sources? Okay, the next one is we have our special sales tax. Again, all of these projects, they have to relate back to either streets or drainage. That's tied to the sales tax language. And so these are all things that, again, Celia has identified. A lot of these are duplicates in other funding sources, but we use essentially both to, well, I guess, take up all of our resources. So just depending on where we have more money, things are split. And then we also have our TIF district funding source. So this is based on projects that are within the TIF zones. It's the only thing that's eligible. So those 4 projects are what currently we are able, we have identified that we can spend any funds on. We do have about 1.5 million left in what we call TIF A, which is going to be your Merriam Town Center area. We don't have any expenditures planned at this point, so it's just something to put out there. The rest of the fund balance for this one is tied to what we call TIF B, which is what you might know is the I-35, so IKEA and all of those other areas. Any questions on those two? Okay, and then this is just a summary of all of the funding sources. Again, this has kind of been duplicated on all the other pages, but if you want to see something of all of them and how much money we're projecting to spend versus the fund balance. Any questions on money? The great news is we can't afford everything that Celia promised you and still maintain about a $30 million fund balance for in case of emergencies.
So I recognize I'm tracking a little bit. So any of these grants, are they coming from the federal government? Do we already have the money and we are not subject to it being pulled back?
Correct. So Celia might be able to speak more on that, but I know that a primary one is the SMAC grant, which is through the county actually. And then the other big bucket of money is the CARS grant. So those two are both, I believe, through the county, and yes, they could pull those back, but we do have money in general or other. So at this point, we are safely, they may even give us more, may give us less, but we're safely sort of being conservative with those numbers on what we put into there versus what we put into another funding source, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that the county funds are pretty stable. We estimate up to 50%, and sometimes they give us a little bit less, but there's no talk of those going away. The carbon reduction grant, we're already invoicing that. The only one would be like our STP potentially, but so far we're not hearing that could be taken back, but it's possible.
Turkey Creek's federal money too.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So we just plan for just in case, and like I said, it's nice to have your fund balance, just in case you want to continue doing those projects and for some reason we don't get money one year. Thank you. Turn it back over to Celia, I think.
I think this is just our standard slide that we give every year, our next step, that keep in mind it's a plan and could change over time. And even though it's in the CIP, you still have the opportunity to approve every single project. So if for some reason, there's a project, for whatever reason we don't want to approve, you're not tied to it just because it's in the CIP plan. And then I think the budget will be coming back in June to you, and that's when the CIP will be finally approved. So, thank you, and do you have any last minute questions?
You push her to come to me.
Thank you.
This time? Okay, thank you. Looks like maybe March financial update is that next. So get back up, happy pulling.
So, March, we received our first tranche of the sales tax, so you will see that in there. It was great. Came in about what we projected, a little higher than last year as well. So, as of right now, everything is looking very stable. Expenditures are coming in way lower than we expected. Revenues are way higher. And so, we are in a great position, but happy to answer. And we are in the middle of audit now, almost complete, and so you should expect to see that at the beginning of June, the same that you typically do. We have to have it submitted by the end of June, so you will see it at some point in the beginning. But happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the board?
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like a community development update. Got Director Dyer coming to the podium.
Hey, Mayor, council members, Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. Just a quick update on Merriam Train Station and the progress that's being made over there. They have gotten partial occupancy of the West Apartment Complex. They're still working on the complete occupancy of that. They are planning on, they being Drake Development, are planning to have the entire project done into May, 1st of June. So that doesn't coincide with the projected end date for the undergrounding of utilities over there. So they'll probably stay there even though the project is completed. And also, the Drake Development does understand does acknowledge that they will have to come back once the underground is completed to complete the landscaping that they haven't installed because of it. So that, if you have any answer any questions.
This question probably should be Director Comkeep while you're standing there, because it may be related to the project. We're getting quite a few holes along Shumshie Parkway. I don't know if that's the state's, is gonna fix those holes, or if that's the project that's caused those holes, if they're gonna fix those, or are we gonna fix those? And I realize it'd be temporary, but it's pretty good holes.
So, I know that they've been, potholing on Antioch, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
Antioch.
Yeah, that they will be required to fix those. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, well, for informational item, we have a public art committee minutes. We're in our packets. If anybody has any questions concerning those? See none? Okay. Then I understand there is an executive session, or you have anything from staff before we go to?
No, sir, but I'm happy to answer any questions as council may have.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Engel? Okay, no staff. Executive session? Yes, sir. And do we have a time frame for that?
About an hour?
9:30.
Okay.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion for that, Ms. Hans?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the governing body recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 7543-19B2 for consultation with legal counsel on matters that would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship related to a potential development project. Present will be the governing body, city attorney, city administrator, assistant city administrator, community development director, finance director, and bond counsel. The meeting will reconvene in the council chambers at 9:30.
You have a motion and a second. Ms. Hubbard.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yonridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shveta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hans.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Clerk. For those in the audience, we will be coming back at 9:30, probably when we come back in, we're just gonna adjourn, so. You're welcome to stay, but if you like, there you go.
Oh, well, I don't think, I'm sorry.
Oh, is it, there's quite a few. It's just upstairs.
I know Antioch Hills,
Yeah,
which
upstairs.
is where? Antioch Hills is south. South of Shawnee Park. Probably on, well, on the east side. Okay.
Edelweiss.
Okay.
Shawnee.
Same as it's been the last 10
The one
years.
that's on Shawnee Mission Parkway.
Same as it's been the last 10 years coming to these things.
Uh-huh.
Watching our tax money get pissed away.
Yeah.
Watching our freedoms get dissolved little bit by little bit.
Vernon.
This is just the second one.
Oh, well, sorry, I don't mean to be a downer.
No, I was just wondering.
There-
That's fine.
We should bring popcorn to this.
Huh?
We should bring popcorn.
Yes.
to this.
I got it. I'm so sorry.
Maybe cupcakes.
That came with my name.
Someday I probably will bring food. Frankly, I should have today. It's going to be an hour in their executive session. I'm sure it's about Drake, the apartment complex they wanted to build where that gas station currently is on Evie. Did you catch that on the presentation?
Well, I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
What is included in that and what is not?
So that plan, basically, like right now, there's an east and a west of Merriam Grand Station. There's going to be like Merriam North Grand Station, and the west of it is going to be a big apartment building. It's going to have a luxury pool that like flows over the edge of the building. It's going to have parking that's half underground and half above ground. If you ask me, it's going to be really cramped. That's not a big space.
No, it's not. So, but that's like where that gas station is, or is the gas station going away?
It's going away. Yeah, if this thing goes forward, like if you own the gas station, sucks to be you. They're going to take it from you.
And then, because there's another little car repair or something.
Yeah, there's several
in there.
Merriam businesses that will be
And
destroyed as
then
part of this project. Yeah.
The Chipotle's.
Chipotle gets to stay because they're friends with Drake. Drake built Chipotle 2 years ago, and they used our TIF money to do it.
And that coffee place too, does that go?
Caribou, I think it's gonna go. Yeah.
It's gonna go.
Yeah.
Okay, I just, no, that's not a big place. And then they're talking about the grocery store, and I was wondering,
Yeah.
where's that gonna be?
It's gonna be a small grocery store.
Where
It's gonna be on the corner of Antioch and Shawnee Mission Parkway.
Where the library is.
Yeah, where the library. Well, the building's not totally destroyed yet, is it?
I don't think it's destroyed at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
the building's still there.
I think they're working on the inside doing.
Our
You say about 10,000 square foot?
Yeah, it's a very small grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Neighborhood store.
Yeah.
Walmart
I like it.
neighborhood thing is bigger than that.
Yeah.
Well, Walmart.
Yeah, I could see it.
The neighborhood.
It's not a ethnic grocery store, is it, or?
They haven't announced a brand yet, but I told them that the neighbors wanted a Trader Joe's. Every neighbor I've talked to is frothing at the mouth about Trader Joe's, Trader Joe's. And it's not a bad choice. I didn't know they fit in that small of a footprint.
Oh.
But maybe it'll be multi-story. That'd be weird. But
Yeah.
what else are you gonna do with that kind of footprint, you know?
Where are you gonna park?
Yeah, I would have liked to see it maybe with parking, like IKEA parking under the store somehow. IKEA does really well with that, you know, and it's more efficient for land use. But, no, they want a big parking lot for the grocery store. For the apartment dwellers, they will get subterranean parking. I think like maybe one level will be visible, but then several levels underground.
Do you work for the city?
Oh, God, no. No, I will never work for the city.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
You just live in Merriam?
Yeah, I live in Timber Ridge. My name is Billy Crown.
Oh, hi.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Karen
Karen.
Fairchild.
Emily?
Wayne.
Where is your?
My neighborhood? Do you know where like Hendrick Toyota is?
Oh, yeah.
Or the old dog pound, the SPCA?
Oh, yeah.
Remember where that used to be?
Okay, yes.
On 67?
Uh-huh.
So our neighborhood's right next to that.
Okay.
When I moved in, I guess my realtor was like feeding steaks to those dogs every time I come over because I never heard them bark. And when I moved in, I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? It was constant.
Yeah. We used to walk the path and we hear those dogs barking.
And then my neighbors moved in next to me, and they had a little dog they keep on the deck, and that dog barked at those dogs, and it was right next to my bedroom. Oh my God! I'm glad those years are over.
Yeah.
Okay. But, Timber Ridge was built between like 2008 and 2014. It's about 37 homes. They were thinking of doing like apartments, like high density stuff in there apparently before our houses went in, and the neighborhoods around there said, no, keep it single family. And so we are single family barely.
Yeah.
Our houses are like 6 feet apart from each other in some places. So, but yeah, I've been there now 11 years. Got married like 5 years ago. My partner moved in with me, and there's 2 of us and 2 dogs. So we have our own garden. Yeah, I've been coming to these meetings since I moved.
when I moved into that neighborhood, I was leery of being in an HOA, right? Because we all hear horror stories. The HOA is gone insane.
But that's not an HOA.
It is. It's
Well, I was just asking her where the HOAs were, and she didn't mention that.
Probably because she hates me, and so she won't mention anything to do with me. Caitlin Gard, the lady in the green shirt and the hair, it's coming up like a plant, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, that's the assistant city administrator. Timber Ridge Villas is an HOA. We're 37 houses strong. I was the president for many years. I was on the board before that and after that. And when I moved in there, I told myself, if I'm going to live in an HOA, I will participate and be a
So you
voice.
know what's going on and just.
Be a voice to know what's going on and to know that we're not abusing people
Uh-huh.
and that we're as reasonable as we can possibly be with people. Like when somebody wants to like narc on the neighbor, like show us the evidence. Just because you say something happened, no. I mean, like, show us a photo if you think something is actually a problem. If it's not worth your time to take a photo with a problem, it must not be a big problem, and we're not gonna be your bully, you know?
Right, I was gonna say, you're not gonna yeah.
Yeah, so we always erred on the side of not harassing people, not like finding people, you know? And I was proud to be part of that for many years. And I actually started coming to these meetings because I wanted our neighborhood meetings to be more professional. When our neighborhood, we call it turnover. So when you move into an HOA neighborhood, if you're one of the first like 60%, like the bank is still the HOA and there are no meetings. They decide by fiat what's gonna happen and you just do it because they own all the lots, you know. But then once owners start to buy, there's a point, and it's in every covenant, it says when that point is. For us it was like 80%. And at the 80% mark, when that house gets sold, now all the documents are given over to the neighbors. There's a big meeting at the bank, and we held our hands up who wants to be a board member and who's voting for who and whatever, and here's your books, good luck, and Godspeed. And so that happened, and our next meeting after that had like screaming children and cats like buzzing our legs under a dining room table. We don't have a clubhouse or anything, you know? And there was no like flow to the meeting. You know, like there was no like, we still don't do Robert's rules, but like there were no motions at all for like a year of our HOA. It was just kind of like, oh, we think, you know, Susie said this and Jake. So I started attending these to get a professional feel for what meetings could be, how they can be conducted, and brought that back to our neighborhood. And now I notice stuff that doesn't get done right here sometimes. But I attend like planning commissions. I was on the Parks Board for a number of years. And I like to share that with neighbors, that's why I record and upload. The city usually does too, but sometimes there's breaks or cuts off at certain moments, so. Backups are good to have. I might actually just sit here for an hour.
Yeah, and then they'll come back, oh, well, have fun.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Thanks for the information.
You're welcome. Enjoy the weather out there. It won't be this nice for long.
Hey, Sue.
So did you get your night light installed?
Yeah, we use them for, we have a Wise, you heard of Wisecam? So we have like these like plug-in switchable outlet things, and they're connected to our door, so when the door is open or unlocked, it lights up in the bedroom. So it's hard to, it's impossible to go to sleep leaving the door unlocked.
Nice, what an idea.
Mhm.
That's great.
Legal record. I'll do that. Is Chief Patrick Marshall,
Yeah, she is.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, she had a sexual complication. She was in the hospital, I think, a day or two. She was supposed to be, he's just taking care of her.
Well, I appreciate it. He's just.
So, she's had, so this isn't like a new thing.
He should be taken care of.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got
Which is why he missed Friday and. Weird, how that goes. Yeah.
Excellent. So, there you go. There you go. Regurgitate everything. Yeah. So, they should have done that. Yes, sir. Got it down. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we know it, we know it. We're not much on it right now. Yeah. All right.
Right now, well, actually, the leading edge of it is, how much is supposed to be? Yeah. Building.
I don't need any more technical issues tonight. Okay. Oh, are you? They're still in town, huh?
They're so helpful though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you know.
It's one of them down here.
They probably will like get away for a really long time because they not really have to do all that.
All right, really enjoy it.
Yeah. All right, have a good night.
Good night.
See you in a week.
Yes, have fun. Good
See ya.
night.
Yeah, oh, that's, I wouldn't pay very well.
We need your Merriam County points.
Yeah.
You kinda gotta take the.
You need some
Miles.
30 times a year.
Yeah, I know. Miles, you gotta.
Wait, so which flights do you need to fly?
But it's third.
Okay, so you want.
Right about that, right, an hour, I heard about it.
Right.
Very short, right? I thought it was cheap, you know.
Well, yeah, I'm sure when you do. We used to be $75.
Oh, yeah. So we'll get into it. Hopefully, not 45 minutes. Yeah, she felt like that.
Oh, really?
That part of Florida is rural, you know, farmers and stuff. Yeah, she's got like cows down the street. It's a retirement. Double wide.
There's a lot of it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of great equipment.
Mhm.
When you look at it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a. Cheap, but I haven't, it's really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And what is the back?
You, well, you get a free carry on, but if you want to transfer ID, it's not cheap. So I just, I go down, I've been down a couple of years, this year, here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They look like home alone.
They live on Canal, goes out in Charlotte Bay, dumps in. So, I mean, we drive this for so.
Yeah.
She goes, yes, CTV.
Oh.
And, we usually do like a day and six there. And there's other beaches, closer. There's a lot of really cool small beaches. We've driven down to like Sanibel Island, too. Doing that. Like 45 minutes to Fort Myers.
Oh.
About an hour to Sarasota.
My sister. Clearwater.
Clearwater, that's, Clearwater is more.
Oh, is it?
Just a little bit more. We have to.
Last time I knew it, you can't remember that. That's the only you can see it was flying in. Sarasota.
Okay.
But it was full of just there. A lot of nice beaches.
Yeah, we've been down to Sanibel. A lot of good seashells.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's a good place to go. You've got some clear beaches over there.
Yeah.
No, the whole island's at my past. That's the one that we stayed at, Canyon bicycles. We rode bicycles.
Oh, yeah. So crowded. Everything's narrow.
Bicycles, bars, bicycles, probably got two out of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm not
sure
sure.
than yet.
That's kind of,
We go from Orlando to 24 hours.
that's
Right,
right.
right.
Yeah, we drove from Fort Meade to Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, we were going through, he was coaching, to fly into, and he was going to be important because we were trying to fly in and scramble on our shift in time, so we, went down there early. Oh, no, yeah, all right. All right. And then she just parked her car and I was like, yeah, it's like, I know it's way off. We're doing it again in January, same week.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
I would just went for a little bit. Not so much as they're talking about going back.
It's been on my bucket list here, okay. On air, with the diabetes. But three of them, I have to see that highway. Yeah. It's just thousands. Yeah, some, even mom to really, wash your face. So that's gonna be this outside. Treasure box. Yeah, and on air and you're going to take the island that's like a 20-minute boat ride. And it's uninhabited. And the snorkeling is great. Really nice snorkel. First off, sure, we're there for the evening. Yeah, there's something there. I don't know. And there's this boat. That's $8. Anyway, it's supposed to be very close to the boat. I'm sure we'll do some other shit. But 6 of us going, so all single.
Oh, wow.
That'd be great. We're gonna do like a launch t-shirt exchange.
Yeah. Going there.
Oh my gosh. Last year's me, my sister and my mom. And it's Princess Cruise, so we're doing graphic. It's really fun. That would be, it was fun, but then it's so much little kids.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
And they're not too fat.
Yep. There you go.
The process was cheap. You put it off. You get the margarita. But we're screwed.
I'm going up at this.
The board in or something. And he's usually a lot of fun. I guess. Maybe they don't come. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, the time. So, for usually the wildest ones. So that was good. We'll see.
It's 21.
Sure. So,
Let's tell them that it's a marathon. Jamie was a sprint. Seafood, fish, fellowship like that.
And then you bring your, you know, the night after that. Mm-hmm. Well, it's lots of fun.
time, the early days when. We heard about this, it's probably it's a full week long, just falling out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically.
Like, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus it's true. Great job. My son and I, family together. You might be like this. Move it out in spring. Oh, yeah, I was wondering. So I'm very grateful. This time last year it wasn't. Yeah. So I was like, cool. It's kind of cool. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. And I think it's gonna turn pretty then Friday. Sunday she's gonna be. She wants to go there. But probably. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's not Nashville. I don't go. I don't know that package. All of them, right? Yeah. It was. Well, maybe we'll just take the, the airlines here. Back. Or people buy insurance. Buy the insurance and they do it back. You can actually shop on. So I was just on. Interesting. Has
normal, very much on that street. Go on more every night. Well, I don't know, much. So I found it, Google or whatever. What's good? Oh, no. It's off. We had. She gets 40 minutes to retire. Yeah. Oh, I know.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, right off of. So I'm sorry, it's called Undercliff Park. It's low. It's off. Yeah, it's not very far off. Old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was it, okay.
So,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Undercliff.
they almost have fire away from home, that.
Yeah, and we don't like to, the only thing that stopped was gone to, nothing to control. But we only can stop because it's like waterfall. And, we lost one.
Here. little, I guess when it's set up unusual folders. Monstrosity. That's something I just should have. Yeah. These are gonna hold it. Which would cost us.
You're good? Yeah. You think? You're gonna have so much fun on your trip, I'm so jealous. Live your best life.
We don't need Jason to go to quorum.
I know, I turned it down, remember, there was a zillion people in here.
It works good.
It does work good. Okay.
I think there's 5 of us, we can go ahead, can't we, with 5 of us?
Okay.
It's not an ordinance, you just need
I would
majority.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Yeah, a motion, I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, second.
We have a motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Aren't you glad to stay?
I got to see all your faces. Let's move on to the side. The good thing is I got something I learned.
My record is 2:38 a.m. Burn it.
Not much.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Computer. Forgot. We didn't have.
I think Julie probably put it.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Mayor Bob.
You mentioned, didn't see you call, we talked about maybe calling. Did you not get me or
No,
just try?
It was a long drive.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't think I missed you, but I thought, I'd check with you and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna get together, though, we can do it now, or we can do it there. You still like you want to.
I appreciate that. You mentioned the Flags for Freedom group, the Flags for Freedom Committee that you attended, correct?
Yeah.
So, I have asked for the time, location, and agenda of those committee meetings. I've been denied. Are you aware of that?
Man, I didn't, no, I wasn't aware of that, I didn't know, I guess you asked.
Anna actually denied me entry at one point. I happened to be there when that meeting occurred. I asked to enter without comment or speaking or anything, just to listen, observe, and share with neighbors what happens at that meeting.
I don't know what the reasoning would be. Kind of thing maybe we've had for years, but.
But now it's part of the government.
I think it was 4,
It's
because
no
it's like
longer a
one
private
from each
group,
class,
right? 'Cause
so.
it's-
Yeah, well, I mean, it was
Yes.
it's volunteers that do it, it's basically people, I mean, it's got staff on it involved.
Yeah. It resembles a lot of other, like Parks Board is volunteers.
Yeah, it's got
staff.
volunteers on it though, and
I just
the
wanna
staff
get them to
person.
have my name on it.
Heads it up.
So
What in charge of it.
what Anna told me like a year ago was it's not a public meeting,
Just give it, we'll
that I
make
would
it.
not be allowed to attend.
I'll check into that.
She said that she talked to the attorney on that.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it. She actually, she talked to me, she went back into the room, she was on the phone,
Okay.
and she came back out and she said, you're not gonna be allowed in. So, this is the open meeting statute. All meetings, the conduct of affairs of committees, subcommittees, other subordinates shall be open to the public.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah, like I say, it's the first I've ever heard of it. I'll be glad to check into it and see what, what the details or what the reasoning was behind
Yeah.
that.
Before it was owned by the government, I could have seen it, cause it was indeed a private group, but it no longer is.
Well, yeah, and there, yeah.
And I got a locked
Yeah,
door.
yeah, maybe there's been a change in this, into that.
Yeah.
But I'll look at that, see. You know, what
I appreciate that, Bob.
Yeah, no problem. That's it, we'll see you later then.
See ya.